It's 2001, a quiet test track in Japan. Early morning, cool air, empty stands, a silver hatchback rolls up to the line. No V8 rumble, no turbo whistle, just a sharp, metallic idle. Next to it, bigger cars, heavier cars, engines with twice the displacement. The flag drops. And within seconds, something doesn't make sense. The little Honda pulls ahead, not by luck, not by mistake, by design. And what almost nobody knows is, this wasn't supposed to happen. Because the engine inside that car, a 2.0-liter four-cylinder, was about to humiliate machines that, on paper, should have destroyed it. You think you know the Honda K20? Not like this. At the turn of the millennium, Honda was at a crossroads. The golden era of the 1990s had already given us icons, the B16, the B18C Type R, high-revving, naturally aspirated masterpieces that proved you didn't need big displacement to make serious performance. But the competition was changing. Manufacturers were going bigger, heavier, more torque, more cylinders, more brute force. Nissan had the SR20 Toyota was pushing the 2JZ into legendary status. Mitsubishi had the Evo with the 4G63. And the Americans? They were still worshipping V8s. The landscape was shifting toward turbocharged power and forced induction. And Honda? They doubled down on something completely different. Precision. While everyone else was strapping turbos and superchargers to their engines, Honda's engineers were locked in development rooms, obsessing over cam profiles, valve angles, and port flow velocity. They believed there was still untapped potential in naturally aspirated technology. They believed they could build something that didn't need boost to embarrass the competition. They were right. In 2001, they unveiled the next evolution, the K-Series engine, and leading that charge was the K20, a 2.0-liter inline-4, aluminum block, DOHC, i-VTEC. Sounds simple, but it wasn't, because under that valve cover was one of the most advanced naturally aspirated systems ever put into a production car. The K20A, the crown jewel, came with a bore of 86 mm and a stroke of 86 mm. A perfect square design. That meant balance, high rev capability, and efficiency. Compression ratio, a sky-high 11.5.1. Horsepower, around 220 HP in the JDM Integra Type R, from just 2.0 liters. That's 110 horsepower per liter. Naturally aspirated. Even today, that number turns heads. But here's what most people don't understand. Getting that kind of specific output wasn't just about designing a good engine. It was about designing an engine that could sustain that output. Day after day, track session after track session, redline pull after redline pull. Because making power is one thing. Keeping it alive at nearly 8,500 RPM is something else entirely. And that's where the real story begins. Inside the K20, everything was built for stress. Forged crankshaft, lightweight pistons, high-flow cylinder head, and a timing chain instead of a belt, designed to survive sustained high RPM abuse. The rods were shot-peened for strength. The bearings were spec'd for extreme loads. Even the harmonic balancer was carefully engineered to manage vibrations at the top of the rev range. But the magic was in the head. Honda's i-VTEC system wasn't just marketing hype. It combined variable valve timing with variable lift and duration. It was intelligent, adaptive, brutal when it needed to be. At low RPM, the engine behaved like something calm, efficient, civilized, smooth idle, decent fuel economy. You could daily drive it without complaints, but cross that VTEC engagement point around 5,800 RPM and everything changed. A third lobe on the camshaft engaged, rocker arms locked together. Suddenly the valves were lifting higher, staying open longer, breathing deeper. It was like flipping a switch. Suddenly the engine wanted to scream, and it didn't stop. 8,000 RPM, 8,200, 8,400, right up to redline. The intake howl became a wail. The exhaust note sharpened. The entire character of the engine transformed. And the craziest part? It was reliable. You could do this all day, every day. Honda tested these engines to destruction. Thousands of hours at redline, thermal cycling, load testing. They wanted to make sure that when someone bought a Type R and took it to the track, it wouldn't grenade on the third lap. But that reliability didn't come easy. Early testing revealed a major issue: oil control at high RPM. At sustained high revs, oil pressure would fluctuate, not catastrophically, but enough to worry engineers. And when you're spinning past 8,000 RPM, slightly unstable isn't acceptable. The problem was in the oil return passages. Under high G-forces and extreme RPM, oil wasn't draining back to the pan fast enough. It was pooling in the head, which meant less oil in the sump, which meant the pickup could momentarily suck air. And if that happened during a high-speed corner at full throttle, game over. So Honda redesigned critical oil passages, improved pump efficiency, optimized oil flow to the valve train and crank. They added baffling to the oil pan, increased the capacity slightly, reinforced the pump drive, because if lubrication failed, even for a second, the engine would destroy itself, and they weren't going to let that happen. Then came the real test, the street, and more importantly, the track. The K20 didn't just live in the Integra Type R, it found its way into the Civic Type R, the RSX Type S in North America, the Accord Euro R in some markets. Cars that, on paper, didn't look intimidating, compact, lightweight, unassuming. But behind the wheel, that was a different story. Car and driver tested the RSX Type S, 200 horsepower, 142 lb-ft of torque. Not huge numbers, but it ran the quarter mile in about 15.0 seconds. Hit 0-60 in the mid-6-second range. Respectable, but not shocking. Until you looked at what it was competing against. Mustang GTs, V6 Camaros, heavier, more powerful cars with twice the displacement. And somehow, this high-revving four-cylinder was right there with them, sometimes beating them. Not just in magazine tests, on real streets, real tracks, real races. How? The answer wasn't just power, it was how the power was delivered. The K20 didn't rely on torque down low. It built momentum. It rewarded precision. Gear selection mattered. Driver skill mattered. You had to keep it in the power band. You had to work the gearbox. You had to commit. But when you did, when you kept that engine singing between 6,000 and 8,000 RPM, it became relentless. Corner exits were violent. Straight line pulls felt endless. The engine never felt flat, never felt breathless. And when driven properly, it became something far more dangerous than its specs suggested. But there was still skepticism, because in a straight line, bigger engines still had the advantage, right? Then tuners got involved, and everything changed. You see, Honda built the K20 strong, stronger than most people realized. The aftermarket started experimenting, bolt-ons first, intake, header, exhaust. Gains were modest, but real. Another 10-15 horsepower, then they started getting serious. Camshafts, higher compression pistons, port and polish work. The block could handle boost, the internals could take abuse, and the head flowed air like a race engine. Naturally aspirated builds started pushing 240, 250, even 260 horsepower. From 2.0 liters, no turbo, no supercharger, just pure engine work. But that was just the beginning. Then came turbo builds, and that's when things got insane. 400 horsepower, 500 horsepower. Some insane setups crossed 1,000 horsepower from the same basic architecture. Guys were bolting on turbos, upgrading fuel systems, tuning the ECU, and suddenly these little Hondas were making power that rivaled legitimate supercars. And suddenly, those bigger rivals didn't just lose, they got embarrassed. There are documented builds running sub-10-second quarter miles, front-wheel drive, K20-powered Civics pulling times that used to belong to dedicated drag cars. One build, pushing around 600 horsepower, ran a 9.5-second quarter mile at over 150 milliamps in a Civic. a front-wheel drive Civic. Let that sink in. Street cars, not tube-frame race cars, not purpose-built drag machines, cars you could theoretically drive to the grocery store and then take to the strip and humiliate Corvettes. But with that kind of power came new problems, and this is where things got brutal. At high boost levels, the factory sleeves became a weak point. Cylinder walls would crack, especially when pushing past 500 horsepower. The cylinder head, as strong as it was, would lift under extreme cylinder pressure. Head gaskets would fail, head studs would stretch, oil starvation reappeared under extreme G-forces and high RPM. And then there was heat, massive heat. Turbo builds were generating exhaust gas temperatures that the factory cooling system was never designed to handle. Engines started failing, not because they were poorly designed, but because they were being pushed far beyond their original limits. Honda built the K20 to make 220 horsepower all day long, not 800. So the aftermarket responded. Dart and sleeves reinforced the block. Upgraded oil pumps improved flow. Better cooling systems managed the heat. Uprated head studs, multi-layer steel head gaskets, larger radiators and oil coolers. The tuning community became a research and development lab. Builders learned the limits, and then they pushed them even further. Some of the most extreme K20 builds today are running billet blocks, custom crankshafts, and titanium valve train components. Engines that share almost nothing with the original except the basic design philosophy. But here's the thing. Even stock, the K20 had already proven its point. On road courses, it became a weapon. Lightweight chassis, high-revving power band, precise throttle response. At tracks like Tsukuba in Japan, K20-powered cars started putting down lap times that rivaled machines with significantly more power. Why? Because the engine didn't just make power. It made usable power. You could stay in the VTEC zone, keep the engine in its sweet spot, carry speed through corners. The power delivery was linear once you were in the zone, predictable, confidence-inspiring. You weren't waiting for turbo lag. You weren't fighting torque steer from a monster low-end hit. You were just driving. And when you exited, that scream, 8,000 RPM and climbing, kept pulling. It didn't fall flat at 6,500 like so many other engines. It pulled hard all the way to the limiter. Drivers loved it. One racer reportedly said, "It feels like the engine never runs out of breath." And that's exactly what made it special. You weren't just rowing gears and managing power. You were connecting with the machine. Every shift mattered. Every corner exit mattered. Every decision to stay in gear or downshift mattered. It rewarded skill and punished laziness. But as the years went on, the industry changed again. Emissions regulations tightened. Fuel efficiency standards got stricter. Turbocharging became the norm. Suddenly, the industry was all about downsizing. 1.5-liter turbos, 3-cylinder engines, hybrid systems, and naturally aspirated engines like the K20, they started disappearing. Honda replaced it with newer designs, smaller displacement, turbocharged K-series variants like the K20C, more torque, more efficiency, better emissions. On paper, better in every measurable way. But something was lost. That razor-sharp response, that high-revving character, that mechanical connection, the sensation of an engine that came alive at 6,000 RPM, the scream, the howl, the feeling that you were piloting something that was barely civilized. The original K20A era began to fade. Production slowed, models were discontinued, and just like that, one of the greatest 4-cylinder engines ever made became history, or so it seemed. Because today, the K20 isn't forgotten. It's legendary. Swap culture exploded. Enthusiasts began dropping K20s into everything. Old Civics, CRX, Miatas, even rear-wheel drive builds with custom adapters and transmissions. Because the engine wasn't just powerful, it was versatile, reliable, and most importantly, it had soul. In a world increasingly dominated by computer-controlled, turbocharged, hybrid-assisted power, The K20 represented something pure, something analog, something that required you to actually drive. Clean, low-mileage K28 engines started climbing in value. Entire Type R cars became collector pieces. What used to be a $25,000 sports car became a $40,000 collector's item, then $50,000, then more. And in racing, they're still out there, still screaming past 8,000 RPM, still proving that you don't need 8 cylinders to dominate. Time attack cars, grassroots road racing, autocross, drag racing. The K20 is still everywhere, still competitive, still making people question why they spent twice as much on something with a bigger badge. So how did a small 2.0-liter engine humiliate bigger rivals? It didn't try to beat them at their own game, it changed the rules. Instead of chasing displacement, it chased efficiency, precision, engineering perfection. Instead of brute force, it offered finesse. Instead of low-end torque, it gave you a power band that felt infinite. It proved that power isn't just about size. It's about how you use it, and in doing so, the K20 didn't just win races. It changed how people think about performance. It showed that a 4-cylinder could be exciting, that naturally aspirated could be fast, that small displacement didn't mean small potential. Because at the end of the day, that little engine didn't just keep up with the giants, it outsmarted them, it out-engineered them, and in many cases, it flat out embarrassed them. If you enjoyed this deep dive, let me know what you want next. Another legendary engine, a forgotten rivalry, or a machine that changed the game. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe, because the next story might be even crazier.